Welcome to week 6 of Cabin Fever. Now I'm curious, did you have a chance to put into practice any of those health tips we learned last week? Are you getting your rest? Are you staying hydrated? Are you experiencing more energy? I know I am, and I love taking that energy and investing it right back into my family. Well, this is week 6 of Cabin Fever, and it's our final week, and it's one of those moments it's bittersweet. It's bitter because I've really enjoyed spending this time with my group, learning and growing and connecting each week. But it's sweet because I can look back at these last 6 weeks and go, hey, I just didn't let time go by. I actually did something to invest into myself, to build community, to become a better person. And that doesn't have to stop when Cabin Fever groups stop. In fact, I'd even challenge you with this. If you don't have a healthy community around you that is encouraging you to grow, that is challenging you to grow, you're missing out on one of life's greatest resources. So talk to your group about what that may look like moving forward outside of Cabin Fever groups. Well, today in week 6, I have the opportunity to interview my older brother. And he's actually spent the last 20 years in the military on the front lines fighting these wars for our country. He's been overseas multiple times, and he's seen things and been a part of situations that honestly most of us couldn't even imagine. And I asked him about this topic of fear and how to overcome it and how to walk it out. And so I think you're really going to enjoy this interview. But before we go there, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being a part of these Cabin Fever groups, and I hope you took as much from these groups as I've taken. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to this interview with Sargent First Class Michael Cumming. Well, welcome. I'm here today with my older brother. This is Michael. Mike, thanks for spending some time with us today.
Yeah, no problem.
So today we're going to be talking about fear. And really in this pandemic, it seems like fear is all around us. And whether it's a circumstance or situation or just some own personal things going on inside of us. But Mike, you know a thing or two about fear just based on what you've done. So tell us a bit about what you've been doing for the past 20 years.
So for the past 20 years, I've been in the military, 4 Marine Corps, 16 Army. Most of it's been as an infantryman, so that's basically the guys on the front lines, kicking in doors, getting in all the firefights and whatnot. So done a few deployments to Iraq.
It sounds like anything messy that our military has been a part of, you've been right there in the heart of it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, impressive. And I know you have some crazy stories, but as we were talking the other day, you made this statement and it stuck with me. And you had said, if we remain in our fear, we don't do anything about it, that fear will actually kill us. And
yeah, absolutely.
I was hoping you could unpack that a bit and tell us where that came from.
Sure. So good example of that would have been in 2006. We were in Iraq doing a big offensive operation on an area called the Jabouri Peninsula. So the Jabouri Peninsula was kind of like the Wild West of Iraq. Like as soon as you stepped foot onto the peninsula, like the streets would clear and you knew you were going to get in the fight every single time without fail. The Jabouris were just ready to fight, and they had a lot of foreign fighters that were holed up in there as well, insurgents that come from like Iran and Pakistan and other countries just to fight us. So we were on this mission. It was called Operation Compton. We were out on this mission for 17 days, clearing the peninsula from one end to the other. And it was hot. It was probably, between 100 and 110 degrees during the middle of the day. One day, myself and Sergeant Armatino, we were out on this patrol with the platoon, but somehow we found ourselves off away from the rest of the platoon, just kind of the two of us. And we were in this alley, and we started taking fire in this alley. And there just happened to be a big, giant gravel pile that we were able to get behind and take some cover temporarily. But we realized very quickly that we couldn't stay behind this gravel pile, because if we did, while we were protected for the moment, the enemy would end up flanking around the side of us and be able to just take us out. So we couldn't stay there. So we looked around for what our options were as to where we could go or what we could do. And we decided that the best option was a building that was in front of us. And so we made the decision that we were going to move up the alley into the oncoming fire, just because you can see if someone's coming around the corner or what's happening in front of you if you're moving in the direction of the fire. And plus, your body armor is covering your front. If you're turning to the sides, you're more exposed. If you're going to the back, then you can't see what's happening. And so we ended up moving out into the fire. The rounds were popping off all around us. When a bullet goes past you, they're going so fast, they make a snap as they go past you, and you'd hear the bullets just crack all over the place as they're going past. So we ended up moving up to this building, and the buildings in Iraq were these, most of them were, if you were in the rural villages, they were like mud huts. This was more of a city environment, so it was kind of like a concrete building. They usually had pretty flimsy doors. They were multi-level, usually 2 stories and then a roof, and the roofs were flat and had a little like 2 to 3 foot wall around them, which was perfect because then you could be up on top, you could see what's coming towards your position and be able to take shots from the high ground and protect yourself, and you've got that wall to hide behind for cover and concealment. So we ended up moving up to this building, and when we got there, we were expecting the doors to be just like most of the other buildings in Iraq where we could just go right in. But unfortunately, this one had a big chain around the door with a padlock on it, so we ended up having to kick the door off its hinges before we could take the building. So we cleared the building, each floor, just to make sure there wasn't any bad guys already in the building we were taking. And when we got to the roof, we were able to provide overwatch for ourselves. Sergeant Armatino was on one side of the roof, I was on the other, and so we could watch the ground below us and make sure people weren't moving up on our position, and if they were, then we could take shots at them. And then we got on the radio and got in contact with the rest of the platoon, and they ended up, it took them about an hour to get back to us, but not on the radio, but to maneuver back to us, and we eventually linked back up with them and continued on with the mission. So.
Whoa, that is almost unbelievable. I mean, I feel like I'm watching or listening to a movie, but this is you. This is real life. And I mean, they're shooting at you, so you're like, wow, best option. Let's run at them. And I know you explained why, but then they kicking the door in. Man, there's so much to this story. I'm glad you made it, and that you're here with us today.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, that statement, though, I get where it comes from now. Because if you would have just stayed there, right, it would have been easy to just kind of be paralyzed or crippled. They would have, like you said, outflanked you and would have got you.
Yeah.
And so I know, I'm just going to go out on a limb. The majority of people watching this today, we're probably not going to be stuck behind a gravel pile with bullets flying by us. But I know people are facing fears, and we all have our own fears and anxieties. And that principle is still true. If we just remain in those fears, we just sit on them, man, those will eventually wear us down and kill us. Yeah. So for you had made that decision. Once we recognize that we're facing a situation or we're in facing some fears, how do we go about making a plan to get out of it?
Yeah, so the first step is you realize you're in danger, and that if you stay put, you're as good as dead. So you've got to do something. You can't just stay in one spot. So then quickly, you've got to look around and figure out what are the options? What are the things I can do? Where can I go? How can I, whatever. And then pick whatever you think is the best option that's going to provide you with the most success or the most advantage, and then you just execute it and go for it. Whatever happens,
So,
happens.
number one is you have to make the decision, I'm not going to stay here. Number two, lay out the options. Number three, which one of these options gives me the best success? And number four is just go for it, execute. And even when you made your choice, right, you kind of determined what the best option was, you still had to improvise because the door was locked.
Right.
And you had to kick it down. Man,
yeah,
well,
no plan goes like it's planned.
always plan on it going not as planned.
Right.
Got it. So you've literally faced these life and death situations, and what advice would you give to people then as we begin facing our fears outside of don't stay there?
Yeah. So when you're talking about life and death, when I first joined the military, I had the opportunity to talk to this old World War II infantry Marine. And he gave me one piece of advice that has stuck with me throughout my entire life. And that was, when it comes time for you to die, make sure all you have left to do is die. And that's kind of driven me over the years to do my best to, make sure things are right with me and my family, things are right with my friends, and that I'm doing the best I can with all the situations I'm given to make sure I'm right with God, so that when it comes time for me to die, all there is left for me to do is die. And I've just realized, another thing I've realized, especially after my experiences in Iraq, was that we're all living on borrowed time. Like every second is a gift that you didn't have before. And I could have a stroke before this conversation is over and be on my way out. Nobody knows when your time is up or how it's going to go, or any of the circumstances around it, and it doesn't matter. So whenever you're going to go, and there's nothing you can do about it. So you might as well just be ready for it, enjoy the life you have, and be ready to meet God when it's time.
That is really good advice, because you and me both know that someday we're going to stand before God and he's going to say, hey, I've given you the gift of some time of life. What did you do with it? So speaking of time and that gift, thank you for spending some of your borrowed time with us today to teach us and inspire us.
You bet.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Take care.
Bye.